Hi everyone, Mitt here from Foundation Capital. Today, April 27th, we heard from Mark Carney about the Canada Strong Fund and how they're going to invest $25 billion into nation building projects and Canadians can get exposure. Now, everyone's probably wondering, what is this? What's it related to? So without a doubt, let's dive right in. So the Canada Strong Fund is a government program that they're launching to launch Canada's first national sovereign wealth fund. The Canada Strong Fund is about making sure that the returns they're using to fund these infrastructure projects to grow Canada are going to be shared with Canadians. Effectively, the federal government is setting up a Crown Corporation so that they can inject equity into these deals to incentivize their equity partners in the private sector to be involved in the deals. So it's not going to be as hard for them to go out and raise money to execute on a project. So for example, if there's a project that you need to have basically a 1-to-5 ratio in regards to equity to debt to execute on, the federal government is saying, you know what, we are going to actually participate as an equity investor and make the returns that the private investors would be making and the private company is going to make by executing on this project. The fund is going to invest in strategic Canadian projects and companies alongside other investors with the clear objective to achieve commercial returns to build the wealth of Canada. And so when you think about that, that sounds really great. And actually, it's something that a lot of other nations do. A lot of other nations, especially the Nordic nations, have sovereign wealth funds that invest in these projects, and the same in the Middle East. And that's when you've probably been seeing a lot of large check sizes being invested into mega projects by them. Canada is pretty much looking to do the same. In order to fund this, the government is actually going to be investing $25 billion over 3 years on a cash basis to fill the Canada Strong Fund. And the fund will increase over time, both from the returns that it generates and through other assets that the government may allocate to it. So this could be excess federal lands where the Canada Strong Fund might participate in a deal by allocating that and getting equity stakes in deals like that, so that there's an exchange of services. Historically, the issue that we've seen in Canada is that the government is either giving you grant money or they're giving land or they're giving away tax credits, but they're not necessarily participating in the equity upside available in the projects or in the related commercial activity. This is going to allow them to do that. Their investment strategy emphasizes returns, which is important. The fund is going to focus on building Canada from infrastructure to advanced manufacturing to energy and mining. The fund will have a mandate to deliver market rate returns for Canadians across the economy. So basically, I think they're trying to make this fund self-sustainable. So as they make money on these projects in the future, they're going to be able to redeploy that into other things and also help balance out any sort of deficits that they're generating by making revenue generating activities. So they're basically outlining here that global investors are increasingly looking to Canada as a destination for major new investments, and the federal government is working to ensure these projects move forward. Yeah, I would say so. Across the board, a lot of people and investors and other sovereign wealth funds want to invest in Canada, and I think it's important that through the Canada Strong Fund, with both the government and external investors, that they're able to generate a return. And so as Canadian companies and international partners invest and succeed here, Canadians should also have a stake so that everyone benefits. Okay, we agree with that. That is why the Canada Strong Fund will participate alongside other investors on a fully commercial basis. That's good. This represents a new ownership opportunity for Canada and Canadians, with the fund focused primarily on equity investments. Awesome. I think we have a lot of offices in the federal, provincial, and all those other governments that provide debt financing. I highlight that here with Canada Infrastructure Bank, EDC, the BDC, and the Canada Indigenous Loan Guarantee Corporation, who are, providing debt on these major projects. They're going to be the equity stack piece in the deal. And the Major Projects Office is working closely with project proponents as they move through the regulatory approvals and the government assessing projects for potential designation under the Building Canada Act. All right, so far this sounds pretty good if they actually execute it. And there's a range of departmental programs playing a critical role in advancing large-scale projects and supporting the growth of Canadian companies. Awesome. Where the federal government is active, the Canada Strong Fund will focus on complementing these efforts, investing alongside private capital in this growing pipeline of projects and companies and generating strong commercial returns for Canadians. Awesome. I think that totally makes sense. I think this is something I've always felt for a while where, the government gives out a lot of loans and grants and forgivable stuff. They should participate in the commercial upside. Even if they are going to continue to provide those grants, they should be able to make a return so that it's not just sitting in the private investor hands. And that way the government can then redeploy that capital to keep investing in projects, not just these major nation building projects. I think a lot of people out there in the Canada startup space know it's very difficult right now to raise capital in the early stage, seed stage space. Canadian investors are pretty wary on exploring new things. They're always looking for cash flow and things like that, which are, definitely important. But when you're doing businesses like tech startups and things like that, cash is uncertainty as you're trying to just make sure you have technological commercial capacity and being able to compete against companies. And I think if they were to allocate a portion of these funds or have separate funds for investing in that tech startup space as well, it's going to allow a lot more technology companies to be built in Canada and remain in Canada as well, instead of going down across the border of the US to invest. All right, now getting back to this. An independent and professional Crown Corporation focus on performance. Independence and professional management ensure a sovereign wealth fund can make long-term, economically sound investment decisions. This structure is widely regarded as global best practice because it strengthens transparency, credibility, and long-term performance through consistent expert management. The Canada Strong Fund will operate at arm's length from the government. They'll create a new Crown Corp, and its work will be guided by CEO and qualified independent board of directors. The model will ensure that both in the near term and long term, the fund remains focused on its mission, supporting the transformation of the economy and creation wealth for Canadians. Awesome. That all sounds good. I think one of the most important factors, though, as we all look at this, is that they make sure that when they are investing in projects, that they're doing it in a diverse level. Obviously, you want the major nation building ones, which are going to go to very large companies. But there's going to be medium tier and small tier players that will want to participate in this as well. And whether that's them investing into a fund of fund that's going to then disperse into smaller projects or have subcontractors that flow into some of these major projects, I think that's what's going to really allow some of the wealth and other projects that are maybe unique and different to flourish as well. And hopefully, it does have a wide variety of professional asset managers that sit on here, along with those who are focused on the well-being of the nation. This is definitely a great opportunity. However, they're also saying it's going to be a simple way for Canadians to also directly participate. They're building Canada Strong, and the Canada Strong Fund is designed to take the effort even further. The government intends to offer Canadians the opportunity to participate directly in the fund through a new retail investment product. So interesting. So ideally what's going to happen here is the government's going to fill it, and then they're going to say, all right, like a stock that's issued by TDs, the Scotias, the RBCs, CIBCs, the BMOs, or the other fund managers, I guess Build Canada Strong is going to issue out some products so that the retail investors can participate in an increased amount and exposure. I think, again, it's going to be very interesting how they go about doing this, because there is a lot of regulations, obviously, as you know, about private investments and what people can do. There's going to be a lot of lack of liquidity in a fund like this. As you know, these projects are more longer term in nature, but again, Canadians should have access to that. So we'll see what happens. There's been a lot of debate within the Ontario Securities Commission and across the Securities Commission across the country, where retail investors and the general public can invest in private credit, private markets, and things like that. Well, clearly the federal government here believes that this is an aspect that they should explore and provide as well. Hopefully it's a net benefit to retail. Again, I think part of it is going to come down to the type of disclosures and information that are available. But it's going to be great because it's going to allow people who are hopefully contributing to their RRSPs and TFSAs to be able to subscribe to these units of these funds in the Build Canada Strong program. So they're basically running it like an asset management firm, which is kind of interesting. And the government intends to, this is going to allow Canadians who wish to invest some of their savings in the Canada Strong Fund to do so. Cool. The government intends to consult on the specific design of this product, but Canadians can expect the following features: broadly access to Canadians from coast to coast, easy and simple to purchase, hold, and transact. As the Canada Strong Fund succeeds, investors will be able to share in the upside while the initial invested capital will be protected. Interesting. I think it's going to, again, in private markets and everything as well, finding a secondary market is going to be interesting. I wonder if this is going to push them to potentially create secondary markets, or if it's going to act more like private funds, ETFs that trade right now, where the fund manager ends up buying it back and having amount of liquidity in order to transact, so that, the book value to the share price trades the same. It's going to be really interesting to see this in execution and what happens. And I think when Canadians invest directly into Canada Strong Fund, they will help fuel its growth, increasing its ability to deliver meaningful benefits across the country. Okay, so you're now betting on the federal government to invest in projects and generate your returns. So I think that's going to be a little bit difficult because, hey, maybe they'll get people to invest, but you've got so many asset managers to pick from. But I guess what it allows you to do is be able to invest in projects that you otherwise would not be able to do so. What do you guys think? Put your comments and questions below. What they're saying comes next is the government's going to establish a dedicated Canada Strong Fund Transition Office to lead a targeted engagement with market participants, regulators, and rapidly finalize the fund. Further details will be provided in the coming months. The Canada Strong Fund joins a federal ecosystem of Crown Corps dedicated to helping promising companies and projects succeed either here at home or through exports to the world. The government believes that for each of these financing vehicles to have maximum impact, they must have clear, focused mandates to ensure clarity of purpose and avoid any risk of duplication. The government will undertake comprehensive mandates for each organization in the federal financing ecosystem. All in all, this sounds pretty good. I think a lot of Canadians can agree that if the federal government is going to go invest in something and do a major project, and there's private investors who are benefiting, we, the Canadians, should be benefiting from it as well. I think the big question is going to come down to, is the projects that the government invests in going to generate market returns, or are they going to have overruns and issues? What is the oversight? I think it's going to be really interesting how they look to deploy this. And at the end of the day, we've got the CPP investment team. So I wonder, is that going to be independent from the Canada Strong Fund, or are they going to look to poach some of those folks? Are some of the people in the private sector going to be moving over into this Crown Corp to invest? And I think we want the best of the best managing fund. So it's going to be interesting how they go about building out that process. But yeah, the government is going to be investing $25 billion over 3 years in order to see this Canada Strong Fund and then invest in major projects. What do you guys think? Do you think they're just going to light $25 billion on fire? Do you think they're going to succeed? Comment below. For us at Foundation Capital, as a trustee at Foundation Capital who invests in private real estate and allows people to invest in projects to get exposure to it, I think this is a unique opportunity if done right. I think a lot of people would agree that getting exposure to this would be awesome and amazing. I think we're going to definitely look at seeing how we can maybe participate in as part of these nation building projects with our focus on housing and affordable housing in Southwestern Ontario. This is Mitt from Foundation Capital. If you're looking to make 15% plus investing and targeted returns, investing in multifamily real estate in Southwestern Ontario, revitalizing existing assets, feel free to shoot me a message. If you want to know more about this Canada Strong Fund and what's going to happen, comment below as well. And looking forward to engaging soon. Bye for now.